Okay, activity 1, we have to read the time on the analog clock and draw the hour and minute hands on the blank analog clocks to be 15 minutes later than the time shown. So you basically have to figure out what time it is and then draw the time 15 minutes later. So let's look at an example. Okay, so in activity 1 today, what you have to do is you have to read the time that's on the analog clock, and then you have to draw it on the blank analog clock that's left for you 15 minutes later than the time showing. So here we are, we can see that our hour hand is pointing to the 9, so it's 9 something, and our minute hand is pointing to the 1, which is the same as 5. So the time showing is 5 past 9, or on digital time it would be 9:05. And we have to remember that when we move this way, past the 12, towards the 1, towards the 2, to the 3, to the 4, to the 5, down and around, that is a clockwise direction. And that's the direction the clock is always moving, as time is always ticking and moving forward. So we are going to count 15 minutes into the future to find the new time that we're looking for. So if we're at 9:05 or 5 past 9 and we jump forward 5 minutes, we're going to be at 10 past. Another 5 minutes, we're going to be at 15 minutes or quarter past the hour. And another 5 minutes, we're going to be at 20 past the hour. So if we move to 9:20, we've jumped 15 minutes into the future or 15 minutes forward. Okay, so here we have a blank clock and we now have to draw the time 9:20, which is 15 minutes past 9:05. So I'm going to look at the center. I know that my hour hand and my shorter hand is still going to be at the 9, so I'm going to draw that on there like that. And I know that my new minute hand now is going to be at the 4 because that means 9:20. So I'm going to draw it on the clock like that. And now I have brought it to 15 minutes in the future. Okay, activity 2 is the opposite of activity 1. You have to draw the hour and minute hands on the analog clocks to be 10 minutes earlier this time than the time that's shown there. So we will try that one as an example as well. Okay, so we're working on activity 2 here where we have to go 10 minutes into the past or make our time 10 minutes earlier. So the first thing we want to do is see what time is showing here. And I'm going to look at my hour hand and I see that it's between the 11 and the 12. Okay, so it's still 11 something, and the minute hand is pointing to the 7, which I know is the same as 35. So if we express that in words, we would say 25 minutes to 12 because we have 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25 more minutes to get to the hour. If we expressed it in digital time, we would say it as 11:35. So now we know what time it is and we want to go back into the past 10 minutes earlier. So we would think about where the minute hand is, jump back 5, and jump back 10. And the new time that we're looking for would be 11:25. Okay, so I'm going to record 11:25 on the blank clock. I know that my hour hand, my shorter hand is still going to stay where it was at the 11. So I'm just going to draw my shorter hand, hour hand on like that. And I have to move my minute hand back. So it's now going to be pointing at the 5. And this way I have jumped the time back by 10 minutes. Okay, activity 3, you have to figure out if the digital times in orange match the time shown on the analog clocks. And then you can circle it, or if you want to use a color here to highlight your choice, yes or no, you can do that. So let's look at the first one on the left-hand side. I can see the orange digital time says 8:20, and then I'm going to look at the analog clock. I'm first going to look for my short, small hour hand. I see it's just past the 8, so that's looking good. It matches. And then I'm going to look at my second hand, my minute hand, and I'm going to see it's pointed to the 4, and I know that the 4 means 20, so it is 20 past 8 or 8:20. They are the same. So for that one, I'm going to circle yes. Let's look at the one in the middle now. The orange time is 7:19, and I have to find out if the analog clock is the same. So I'll first go to my hour hand. I can see that the hour hand is just a little bit past the 7, so that looks like a match. Now, what about the minute hand? It's pointing at the 5, and I know that the 5 means 25 minutes past the hour. Oh, but it says 19 in the place where the minutes go on the digital clock. So I found one that is not the same. I'm going to circle no for that one. Okay, activity 4 says make up any digital time to the minute and write it in the green box. Then draw on the hour and minute hands on the analog clock to match the digital times. So to do it to the minute, we need to remember that it should be 1, 2, 3, or 4, not 5, or 6, 7, 8, or 9. It should be 6, 7, 8, or 9, and not 0. So there's 8 numbers that you can use to make it to the minute. Okay, so in the last activity, we have to make up our own time, and then we have to put it on the clock. But the trick here is that it has to be to the minute. So notice this digit here. I made up the time of 4:26, or 26 minutes past 4, and I have the 6 underlined because that digit there needs to be a 1, 2, 3, or 4. 6, 7, 8, or 9. It should not be a 5, and it should not be a 0 if we want it to be to the specific minute. So I've made up this time, and I'm now going to do what we did before. I'm going to put my hour hand on at the 4, my short hour hand, and I now want to put my minute hand on specifically to the minute. So I know that that 5 is the same as 25. So 26 is just one more, so that little dash right there is indicating 26. So I'm going to draw my minute hand nice and long and have it pointing exactly to the minute like that. And that's how we do activity 4.